Have you ever experienced some mindset belief about the money which you cracked down the time and said, okay, I shifted?
I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household, so I was really taught about money at an early age, which is a gift that was beyond belief. But at the same time, when you grow up around people that have this scarcity mindset, you start picking it up. So we have this built-in scarcity mindset that we need to get rid of and bring in the abundance mindset.
What is the internal shift people have to make to stop earning but start creating wealth? Because earning money, it's absolutely not the same like creating wealth, and I experienced this in my 30s, and I would like to hear it from you.
Well, we were all taught to exchange time for money. That's what we learned. So the first thing that my mission has been, and I think we achieved this greatly with the Rich Dad brand and my books on Napoleon Hill, is to get people to shift their mindset from exchanging time for money, but to focus on, with every dollar you receive, you have a choice. Are you going to let it go through your fingers, or are you going to reinvest it?
Can somebody fake that shift or believe that shift happened, but in reality shift still didn't happen into the using assets or creating real assets?
Well, absolutely. And you have a shift in mindset, and it's new, it's uncomfortable. So it's easy to go back to that comfort level.
What is the usual reason which you can find from your clients?
Well, and the Bible doesn't say money is evil. The Bible says the love of money is evil. And so I think
if she's a big difference.
Yes, it's a big difference. And so if you think about money,
what was the message you wanted to spread through that book? If you had to teach a child of that age one belief about money, what would that be? Guys, I need to say something. We're building something really special here. The level of guests, the conversations, the depth we are going in week by week, it's becoming better and better, more and more valuable. But there is one thing which doesn't make any sense. Almost 90% of you who keep watching the episodes, who keep coming back week by week, are not subscribed yet. Which means one thing, you're not fully part of that journey. I get it. It's one click. It feels small. But for us, and myself personally, means everything. It tells the algorithm that we matter. It helps us reach bigger guests and create better and better podcast episodes, which at the end of the day are equally for myself like for yourself. They bring the value. So if there was ever a moment to support us, I please you to do it right now. Check if you're subscribed, and if you're not, it's completely free. It doesn't mean to you that much like it means to us. Just click the subscribe button, and by that way, you will help us grow bigger and bigger. And what I can promise you is that me and my team will continue making improves, and very soon move ourselves to the real studio where we will record even more powerful episodes with same and new guests. Check, are you subscribed? And subscribe right now. Thank you. Sharon Lechter, thank you so much for coming today on my podcast. I must be very honest that some of your videos over the social media influenced me. How do I think about the money? Before we even start talking about who you are and how it happened to you come to all this world, I want to ask you, have you ever experienced some mindset belief about the money which you cracked down the time and said, okay, I shifted it?
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Nick. I'm delighted to be with you. I grew up in a very entrepreneurial household, so I was really taught about money at an early age, which is a gift that was beyond belief. But at the same time, when you grow up around people that have this scarcity mindset, you start picking it up because it's very important to control the environment you're in. Mm-hmm. And that fear of never having enough money, or that fear of losing what you have, is something that, we all battle. And I even battle that, as far as, making sure that I'm not thinking I can't afford it, but change my thought process to how can I afford it? Mm-hmm. So we have this built-in scarcity mindset that we need to get rid of and bring in the abundance mindset.
Whenever you come to the salesperson will tell you, I know how to help you. We are having perfect solution for you. But in fact, you have a great product, you have a great offer, you know that you can help so many people, but yourself still inconsistent. Why it's like that? Because you misunderstand two basic principles. And let me tell you something, it's not economy, it's not war, it's not current president or political situation, none of that. Because simply you and money were always on the same planet Earth. You never left the planet, and most likely money never did it, right? The only two ways are the reason why it's like that. Number one thing, which can be the reason, is that you don't know the right way of presenting your offer. Number two can be that you don't know the proper way to whom to present it, which boils down to you don't know to whom to sell, or you don't know the right way to speak to the people to whom to sell. I have been scaling in the past 10 years multiple of my own companies and companies of my clients from $0 to $200,000 in sales, being in China, selling physical perishable items like food and beverages, and without speaking Chinese, without writing Chinese, and without knowing how to sell to Chinese people. But I knew one core principle, and this is that psychology of people never change. So I knew to whom to sell, and I knew exact way how to present my offer to them. I was scaling up my digital businesses to hundreds of thousands of dollars, again understanding two core principles: to whom to sell, so who can benefit from my offer, and the way, when, and how to present them my offer. And there is no magic and there is no secret behind that. It's really easy to understand it. But in order to this video be very short, I put all of this together in the school community, which is completely for free. You can join it right now, clicking on the link below in the description box, and you can discover these two principles. It will take you a couple of days to figure it out yourself and to practice it, and then your sales will become consistent. Until then, see you in the school community. Bye for now. It's beautiful because you grow up in a family which was already wealthy or established over entrepreneurship, and most of the people are basically coming from mud to some stage where they are succeeding. Tell me how much this growing up in such environment shaped you later. Have you been more confident dealing with people, selling with people, talking to people? Did it shape you in any good or bad way? How do you feel?
Well, thank you, Nick. Let me back up because we were very poor. We were lower middle class. We lived in that little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop and my dad's used car lot. But he reinvested everything he made. He had rental properties. I talk about that at the age of 10, I was scrubbing out bathrooms between tenants. So I've been a real estate investor since the age of 10, I share. He had orange groves that he said the oranges are my cash flow every year, but the property is increasing in value. And so we would talk about income. We talked about cash flow. We talked about assets or at the dinner table. And it wasn't until I got older, but I was the first generation of my family to go to college. I was going to become a professional. I wanted to be a professional like my friends' parents were. And so only woman in my accounting classes, one of the very first women who started in public accounting back in the mid 70s. And so I was really a trailblazer, not realizing that that's what I was. I was just working hard enough to achieve, and very successful in public accounting, but I wasn't in control of my life. Mm-hmm. And so it was at that point in time when I saw a lot of affluent people, all right? I saw how businesses succeeded, and probably more importantly, I saw how businesses failed. And I saw how if we're not taught about money, not understand the basics of building assets, the more money you make, the more money you spend. Mm-hmm. And so something that when seen from the inside out, how many companies failed, it just reinvigorated my desire to help people find the path to understanding money better.
You had any belief in yourself back at that time that you can do it?
Great question. I have always had that a little bit of a self-confidence issue, mm-hmm. even today. But I was raised by parents who told me I could do anything I wanted to. I could be anything I wanted to.
Beautiful.
And I think, as human nature to compare yourself to other people. And when I first started my career, I had a hard time telling people I was an expert. I had to really work on that. And, I've learned that you can be humble and mm-hmm. bold at the same time.
Yeah. And
so I don't have a problem telling people today that I'm an expert or I'm an authority in financial literacy, financial education. Used to be when I would say that, I'd kind of chuckle because it was, I didn't feel authentic, but I truly believe that. I think it's really important for people to find your own voice. We live in a society where people judge themselves through the eyes of others. And that's one of the biggest messages is, you were put on this earth by God to be you, nobody else. Be the best version of you that you can be. You've got talents. You've had your own successes. You've had your own learning opportunities along the way. So you are the expert in your life, and whatever you've been through, you can share and help other people going through it as well. And so I truly do a lot of work with my clients. I have high-level mentoring clients with my speeches, everything, talking about standing in your own power. You are all experts, right? And people start getting really nervous saying, I'm an expert. And then I have them change that one word, because we can control our thoughts, our words, our actions. I go, so instead of saying I am an expert, say I am the expert. Feel the difference? I am the expert. And because you're the only one that's had your experiences. You are the expert in your life.
100%.
And you can share it with other people. And then I help people go from being the expert to becoming the authority. And you're the authority when the phone starts ringing and people are seeking you out. And so be steadfast in yourself, in your voice, and how you can share what you've experienced so that you can help others going through the same thing.
It's very beautiful what you're saying here, because so many people nowadays have self-doubt in any sort of business area where they're doing. And me, myself, I grow up probably in some sort of same as you, but in some sort of very different. You see, my parents never taught me that I can achieve everything. My father even taught me, when I told to him my dreams as a teenager of 14, 15 years, and I said to him, I don't feel to live the life pajama and suit, to go to work 9 to 5. Yeah, I love university, which I going to study, but I would like to own something mine, live somewhere near the sea, hot area, drive some car, rent some apartment. He was so much literally pissed off because he couldn't give me that life. And he said, you know what? You should stop dreaming. We don't have that. We are the normal family. You need to have that big pail of money to achieve this. And you're not having it. I'm not having it to give you. So please book a university. It struck me a lot. And I know that feeling. And I know how much of internal work I had to do with myself. So my question to you right now is, what is the internal shift people have to make to stop earning but start creating wealth? Because earning money, it's absolutely not the same like creating wealth. And I experienced this in my 30s. And I would like to hear it from you after working with so many people. How do you feel that?
Well, thank you, Nick. Yes, absolutely. Well, we were all taught to exchange time for money. That's what we learned.
It's kind of a pattern.
Get a job for a paycheck. And the problem is there's only so many hours in the day. There are only so many days in the week. So the first thing that my mission has been, and I think we achieved this greatly with the Rich Dad brand and my books, The Napoleon Hill, is to get people to shift their mindset from exchanging time for money, but to focus on, with every dollar you receive, you have a choice. Are you going to let it go through your fingers, or are you going to reinvest it? And instead of thinking about income from wages, think about income from assets. Buy, build, and create income producing assets, because you're financially free when the income from your assets exceeds your monthly expenses. And we're not taught that in school.
No.
And so that is my mission. That's what I yell from the mountaintops. Assets is my favorite word. I talk about sexy assets are sexy because that's how you create wealth, not paychecks, not salary, but income producing assets. That's what creates financial freedom and allows you to choose the life you want.
How that internal shift felt to you when you started creating those assets?
Well, that's what I learned at home. And then I went the other way. I got the job in public accounting. I was making a salary. I was not in control of my life. I was working long hours, and I'm going, what's wrong with this picture? All right, this is not what I was taught. And so, 4 years into my public accounting, I had the opportunity to leave and go with a client where I would own a piece of the company. And I realized that entrepreneurial spirit was embedded in me from how I grew up. And so that entrepreneurial spirit, you can still be an employee and get wages, But what you do with your wages, are you building something on the side, reinvesting those wages into assets that generate income? And that has been my message for 40 years. Forget people wake up focus on the assets, not the income.
Mhm. See, this is something beautiful what you said, because most of the people who are working full-time jobs, and I'm not having anything against that, but simply that's not the way to wealth, they're spending their salary on liabilities. And I was recently speaking to someone 3 years younger than me, a friend of mine, who is working 9 to 5 job, and his salary it's barely reaching the price of a new iPhone. Where he told me like, but that's amazing, like I can now buy it. And I said, no, man, for you it's too expensive. And I spent hours trying to explain to him that for him and his wage, such items are expensive. He needs to find different way or to buy them and with them to produce the money, not to use them as a liability. And see, what you're touching here, it's something what I want to go a little bit deeper and to ask you, can somebody fake that shift or believe that shift happened, but in reality, shift still didn't happen into the using assets or creating real assets?
Well, absolutely. And you have a shift in mindset and it's new, it's uncomfortable. So it's easy to go back to that comfort level
Mm-hmm.
of this is the way all my friends operate. This is how I was taught. You have to step outside your comfort zone to discover the opportunities and the possibilities. But sometimes it's still hard to stay there when your thinking is so different from the people you're around. That's why it's so important to create the environment of other people who are like-minded that help you continue pursuing those assets, the entrepreneurial sect. So who are you hanging out with? Who are you listening to? So important to feed your brain with these new comments and these new thoughts about taking control of your financial life and not to fall back into those old habits. And sometimes it's your own family. They see you making changes to succeed, and it threatens them, not because they don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to succeed, but because they themselves are not doing it. And so you're making them uncomfortable that you're doing something and they're not. So they're going to try and pull you back into the fold. And so I tell people, put on this cone of protection. I actually have them put their hands up here and go, cone of protection. And know that when you are in that environment, don't allow them to pull you down. Allow them to see you continuing to strive forward. And when you create that success in your life, they're going to become your biggest cheerleaders and they're going to see it's possible. And maybe they're going to start moving that direction. More than likely, they're going to ask you for a loan because you're successful. So watch out. But it's really important to know that the people that you hang around a lot that are still employees and still in that scarcity mindset, it's going to be a constant struggle for you to protect your new abundance mindset. But you will succeed if you protect it, and you will encourage them to start stepping outside their comfort zone as well.
Mm, nice explained. I can agree with that. Do you believe that financial freedom it's more skill or self-identity? Achieving financial
Well, it's
freedom.
a combination of both. I mean, there are a
Yeah.
lot of people that have a lot of high level self-confidence who have no clue about money. And they talk a good game, but they don't live a good game. And so it's a combination of having the self-confidence as well as making the right movements in how you spend it, how you invest your money. It's a combination of the two. And there's this a human element inside many of us that says, I'm not good enough, easy for her to say.
Mhm.
This victim mentality is almost pervasive in our society, and you really have to work hard to overcome that. There
How?
are those people who haven't, don't have that are very
Yeah.
self-confident, but they're fewer and farther between. And there are people that are very self-confident who are too self-confident and they are not taking the steps they need to provide their own financial security. So if you make a decision as to what your goal is, what you want out of life, and have that, build that self-confidence, but also take the action, build the skill on understanding your money. Master your money. That's one of my courses is money mastery. Understanding when it comes to money, you're either in control of your money or it's in control of you. And
Mhm.
there's nothing in between,
True.
right? And most people are controlled by their money, which means their happiness is controlled by how much money they have, their future, the way they spend their time. And so I help people move from not having their money control them, but getting them into a position where they control their money. And you have such freedom there.
I'll come back to this right after next question because I must ask you how somebody can know that their identity is a bottleneck.
I think through educating themselves and asking themselves those questions and having a mentor, I think is so
Mhm.
important. I mean, we talk about reading books, that type of, but a mentor really can help challenge you. A mentor typically sees more for you than you see for yourself,
Mm.
and that constant um, guardian angel on your shoulder, your mentor, who's helping you see more for yourself than you see, gives you the courage because it's like one of my mentees, she says, you know, I asked her to come on stage and she was so nervous. But then she says, if Sharon believes I can do it, she wouldn't invite me up there if she didn't have confidence in me. So my confidence in her gave her the confidence to step on that stage. And sometimes you need that. You need that mentor that's there showing you what's possible for you until you believe it for yourself.
That's very beautiful what you said right now because this is somehow for me like borrowed trust, and this works very well. To come back on you speaking about money, what belief about money did you had to unlearn in order to reach your next level? How did it look to you in the past?
Are you asking me personally
Yes.
or just overall? Okay. Um, I think I have this philosophy, and it was part of why I left public accounting. It's called why not? Why not take that road less traveled? Why not solve a problem or serve a need? And that philosophy is still my philosophy today. So
Never heard
why
of this
not solve
before.
a problem or serve a need? Every time I get mad about something, I start another company to solve a problem or serve a need. And so I think for me, it was giving me myself permission to take the action. Because
Wow.
sometimes we see something and we think that should happen, but we hold ourselves back. And so giving myself permission to take action is a huge issue for a lot of people. They need to take action. You know, we sold 36 million copies of Rich Dad. Well, there's not 36 million millionaires. So
100%.
those
Yeah.
people that took action are the ones who built that wealth. And we tend to be a reticent society. We tend to wait and for things to come to us. And those that are truly successful take action.
Mm. I believe that this letting go and taking that action, letting go, that feeling, is kind of very uncomfortable for most of the people because there might be a fear of judgment, a fear of you're not good enough, a fear of failure, and many other. So
Absolutely. Well, and our comfort zone is exactly that. We're comfortable there. The problem is your opportunities lie outside your comfort zone. And so
yeah.
it's taking that first step is the hardest. That first step is the hardest. And that's why I always say, why not? Why not take that step? Take this, you can always step back into your comfort zone. Step outside your comfort zone. Discover what's possible. Why not take the
That,
road less
that's
traveled?
actually very beautiful what you said, and I'm pretty sure first time ever hear it that you can always step back to your comfort zone. Never thought about that. But this basically it's a huge leverage to make a next step into uncomfort zone because you can always step backwards if anything goes deeply wrong. Wow. You touched me with that. I never heard of this context, but it's very true actually. Because you will have safety nets, so there is no problem of challenging yourself over and over because you can always step down. Wow, that's a deep one. I love it, Sharon. Thank you so much for sharing that one. Going forward, uh, through my question list, uh, I must tell you that I could find a lot of people whom I know, a lot of people whom I see on the socials, a lot of people who are my friends who are not entrepreneurs who have some sort of fear. And then when I was crafting the questions, I said, okay, I would ask Sharon also something closer to them in order to inspire them. One of them is why so many people stay financially stuck. Is this a bad habit? Is this too much of comparing with others who live better than you, or you think that they live better than you, or anything else? How do you see this among your clients and over the decades of experience working with people?
Well, we don't know what we don't know. And so we're raised in this scarcity mindset. Your parents say things like money doesn't grow on trees, pinch your pennies, save for a rainy day. So we grow up with this money negative, money negative, money negative. And so
Hmm.
we are inherently taught a scarcity mindset. And so we at first you have to recognize that and start educating yourself. And that's the problem. Most people don't want to take the time to educate themselves. They want an easy answer. So they end up wanting to work overtime or they get a second job. Well, that just exacerbates the problem because you're giving up more time for money. So it's really hard to get ahead with that. And so you have to educate yourself. And that has been my mission and still is my mission today to give people the tools to understand how to convert that scarcity mindset to a abundance mindset. A perfect example. As I shared earlier, we can control our thoughts, our words, our actions. Well, we start with the scarcity thoughts. And so our words come out like, I can't afford it, right?
Yeah,
Well, that's a negative statement. You just want to turn off the lights and get under the covers. So I teach people, catch yourself, because that's a sign that there's something wrong going up here. And instead of saying, I can't afford it, say, how can I afford it? And
yeah,
that triggers the thoughts. That triggers your subconscious mind. It goes to work trying to find how you can
challenging
afford.
you.
And it can become very creative, particularly our children, right? And so by watching what you say, I can't afford it. Nope. How can I afford it? You absolutely start energizing the abundance part of your mindset. And so, and then when your kids are asking you for something and you say, we can't afford it, catch yourself and say, Johnny, Maria, how can you afford it? And they get very creative. And the beautiful thing is let them earn the money, let them get what they want as long as it's legal. But the greatest dividend is you're going to see their self-confidence grow. And once a child knows how to make money on their own, you can't stop them. It's a beautiful gift, lifelong gift. Financial education is a lifelong gift. And that's what, as you educate your children, educate yourself. You have the
Hmm.
opportunity to learn along with them. What a lot of people are afraid to let other people know that they don't know something. Well, you're not alone. The vast majority of people don't understand money. They've never been taught.
Yeah,
And so take the time, I'm here to support every single one of you to learn about money, learn the vocabulary of money, learn the momentum of money. My second book in the Rich Dad series is Cashflow Quadrant, and it's really a quadrant on the left side. Top one is E for employee. The bottom one is S for self-employed. And that's where school teaches us to be an employee or to be a specialist, right? And
hmm,
that's the problem with the left side of the quadrant is there's only so many hours in the day and so many days in the week. The right side of the cash flow quadrant, the top one is B for business owner. The bottom one is I for investor. Business owner and investor. Business owner is where your people are working for you. So your business is an asset, is working for you. Investor, your money is working for you. The right side of the cash flow quadrant is where assets are. And I help people move from the left side to the right side, and that those assets give you unlimited potential. There's on the right side as an employee, self-employed, your amount of income you can make is limited because you can only work so hard. On the right side, you can add more and more assets. Your income potential is unlimited. And as I said earlier in this interview, you are financially free when the income from your assets exceed your monthly expenses. And what kind of assets? Assets are paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, owning businesses, owning investment real estate, commodities, intellectual property, writing a book, creating a program, all of those things, digital currency, all of those are assets. And your financial planner will tell you to diversify your assets. And that typically means they're talking about across paper assets, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. I teach asset diversification across all asset categories so that when we have a dip in our economy in one area, it's not going to hit every area that you're invested in.
But when you said this moving from the left to the right side, and when you're doing this with your clients, what do you see as the biggest objection? Is this fear of failure or fear of responsibility or something else?
I think it's fear of making mistakes, fear of failure, but it's also fear of discomfort.
Mm, okay.
Even when you are financially struggling, your habit is to financially struggle. And so we have to break one habit to move into a new, more healthy habit. And that transition is difficult if you don't have the right support around you, the right encouragement, the right cheerleaders to help you keep moving. That's why having a mentor is so important.
And what you're saying, it's absolutely true because I feel it on my own self, and I can say from my own shoes that this is extremely true. One thing you said here is belief about the money and like I don't have it, or how can I have more? How can I achieve it? See, I touch base my childhood. One of the ways how we make decisions in my family was, is this decision we are making expensive or affordable for us? Which took me a lot to change that belief and to start making decisions on the way, what is their outcome? Is this going to serve me or not? Not about are they expensive or cheap. My question to you is, how do you make today your decisions? And what is your advice for entrepreneurs? How should they look at decisions and how should they make them?
Well, that's a big area. So, in making financial decisions, is this expenditure going to serve me in the future or is it going to be a dead end? Okay, so wealth, you want your money to have momentum, to grow. So you buy something like a new pair of shoes, that's a dead end for that money. Instead, if you take that money and you save enough money, you buy a rental property. Well, that rental property is yours forever and is going to continue generating cash. And so that cash flow from that rental property can afford those shoes if you need them. So again, understanding where is the money going? Are you investing in something that's going to be long term? Or are you saying goodbye to it with every decision you make?
Beautiful. Are you personally today making decisions from analytical side or from the gut feeling based on past experiences?
I'm literally meeting with my bankers this week because we are in the process of rehabbing a house for my daughter, and we are in the process of upgrading some maintenance for a ranch. And so I'm literally in the process this week of how can I best finance that without having to cash in investments that I have. So yes, I'm in the middle of that. I meet with them tomorrow. So yes, we're constantly asking myself the same questions I ask my clients.
That's very interesting to hear, and good luck to that. I wish you best of luck for negotiations parts, and I don't doubt in you. Do you think people subconsciously avoid wealth in the way that they think that wealth is evil, that money is evil, or what is the usual reason which you can find from your clients?
Well, and the Bible doesn't say money is evil. The Bible says the love of money is evil. And so I think
And
as
that's a
you
big difference.
yes, it's a big difference. And so if you think about money, as you start creating more wealth, money just brings out more of who you really are. If you're generous, you're going to be more generous because you've got more money to be generous with.
That's very good.
If you are greedy, you're just going to be more greedy. And so it's really important to analyze your own moral code. What's your own morality related to money? I absolutely charity and contributions to charitable organizations is a huge part of everything I do. And I
It's
think it's
beautiful.
really important for you to have that goal in mind, not just the accumulation of money. My most recent book, just out last month, is called Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth. And old wealth is a slow and steady accumulation of money. New wealth is, you can imagine what that is, finding AI, the new types of,
Absolutely, yeah.
let's make money fast. But true wealth is in the pursuit of financial wealth. Who are you becoming? Because I have a lot of friends who are billionaires who've lost their health along the way. They've lost their
Wow.
families along the way because they did not understand true wealth. True wealth, yes, includes financial wealth, but it also includes your relationship, your family, your health. True wealth means that you have paid attention to every aspect of your life and you have created a lifestyle of abundance in every aspect of your life, your family, your friends, your charities, your relationships, your physical activity, your health, and financial wealth, generational wealth. That's true wealth. And so, yeah, if you go to my website, SharonLechter.com, I'll autograph the book for you. True Old Wealth, New Wealth, True Wealth.
That's very beautiful. And thank you for that sharing because you are the one of the rare people who really look at the wealth from unzoomed pictures. So you're looking on all aspects of wealth. Am I wealthy in the health? Am I wealthy in the money? Am I wealthy with my family, in the relationships with my friends? And that's very beautiful. You touched base a couple of times about the books. And I want to say that when I first time saw that you wrote a book, Think and Grow Rich for Women, for me this was like, wow, that's amazing idea. First of all, because we need more women in entrepreneurial space. If you ask me right now how many women was on this podcast versus men, the difference is probably 20 versus 80. I'm not happy about that. I would like to this be 50-50, and especially when it comes to sales, which I'm very passionate about. I think women are way better in sales because they're selling every single day, talking to their friends, convincing their friends that they can do better, that they can find better relationship, better boyfriend, talking about their hair, their style. They're selling every single day. Tell me a little bit more about that, how this idea came from, and what was the message you wanted to spread through that book?
Well, thank you very much. And I agree women are very good salespeople unless they're selling themselves. So then they don't have the confidence they need. But I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. And
Wow,
my when I
that
left
early.
when I left the Rich Dad organization, the Napoleon Hill Foundation reached out to me in 2008. We know what was happening to the economy, and they asked me to help reinvigorate the teachings of Napoleon Hill. So my first book with the foundation was 3 Feet from Gold, which is a wonderful book. Then I did Outwitting the Devil, which was a manuscript that he wrote that was hidden away for 75 years. But in that process, the foundation asked me if I would do Think and Grow Rich for Women, which was a huge honor. And most of my career, I kind of stayed away from doing anything specifically for women because I think, money's the same for men and women. But I realized along the way that the way we think about success is very different. And the original book, Think and Grow Rich, was very male centric because women were not in business in the 1930s. When
100%.
Think and Grow Rich was released in 1937, we couldn't have our own credit card, we couldn't have our own mortgage. So
Hmm.
the world was very different. So I had an opportunity. And in Think and Grow Rich for Women, I highlight over 300 women of history, women today, about different aspects using the same core 13 principles, but there were two primary reasons I did it. The first was I wanted to change the dialogue of women. Too many women were complaining and criticizing about the men that stood in their way. That's victim mentality. And I wanted to change the dialogue from one of criticism to one of celebration. Let's not criticize the men that send us our way. If you think about the law of attraction, if you're complaining all the time, what are you going to attract?
Yeah, just more and more
Negative
complaints,
reaction.
right? Yeah.
So let's change to one of celebration about how far women have come. Is there more progress that needs to be made? Certainly. But let's celebrate how far we've come, and let's celebrate the men who have supported us along the way. Because when you are in the frame of mind of celebration, you're going to attract positive results. People are going to want to be around you. And the second reason that I wanted to write the book, in addition to changing the dialogue about men, I happen to love working with men. So it's when men and women come together at the same time, you get the greatest results.
Absolutely.
But I also was concerned about all of this work-life balance craziness that people talk about all the time. I go, we live in a world that's never balanced. If you're balanced, you're not moving. And so I wanted to shake up the thought of women's, we have so many more aspects of our life. We have our work, we have our family, we have our health, we have our finances, we have our faith, all of those. We have one big life. Absolutely. And so my last chapter, which was not in the original book, the last chapter in Think and Grow for Women is called One Big Life. And it's like, let's not focus on work-life balance, because then, if all of a sudden you realize you didn't spend enough time with your kids yesterday, don't waste precious time today in a place of worry. Realize, I screwed it up yesterday. I'm going to spend more time with my kids today, because we have all those elements that you are constantly living one big life. And paying attention to every aspect of your life is much more important than worrying about work-life balance. And the problem with the word worry is the definition of worry is to pray for what you don't want. So here we are back to attracting negative results because you're focusing on the negative. So I happen to be a champion worrier, Nick. So I would catch myself and say, okay, stop. Let's not think about what I don't want to have happen. Let's reframe my thinking, change my thoughts to what I do want to have happen. And it really is magic. And that definition I've shared around the globe, and I have people writing to me all the time about how it's really helped them change their mindset. So when you worry, catch yourself. Don't focus on what you don't want to have happen. Focus on what you do want to have happen.
It's a big mindset shift belief, and it speaks volumes about how you, first of all, mastered that, and that you wanted to inspire many others to do it. And I believe it wasn't easy to make that shift and to always be in control of your negative thoughts, because it's a brilliant way how you manage to control them. And I guess that, like all of us, like myself, you're also having negative thoughts during the day in your business and questioning yourself, self-doubting. But the way how you snap finger and change those thoughts, it's absolutely brilliant skill. How does it look today? Do you ever self-doubt yourself in the new business, in the new idea, in the new offer? How your mind works around that?
Every day, Nick. I mean, it's like, yes, I'm an expert. Yes, I'm an authority. And yet every day I'm faced with something where I have to say, I can't do that. No, let's see, if I want to do that, how can I do that? It is a constant human nature thing for us to immediately see the obstacles. I happen to be an excellent problem solver. And so I'm always looking for the obstacles that I can help get rid of, out of my way, out of my client's way. But when you see an obstacle, you immediately see the negative, right? So you have to really train yourself to see the negative, but don't let it inside, right? See the negative. Okay, let's solve this. How can we get around that? How can we turn that obstacle into opportunity?
Yeah, you kind of never feed that negative emotion which you're having. You just immediately try to get rid of it. Brilliant. What most people don't know, and I also want shortly to touch base on that, and I didn't know for my 34 years, I recently found out that you're a co-author together with Robert Kiyosaki about book Rich and Grow, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and after that, several books more which are following. And one of the things I thought about is like, wow, that's actually brilliant that you have been part of that and that you are creating a half of the legacy which book it's pulling over and over. As you said, like there are millions of sold copies and God knows how many entrepreneurs succeed somewhere driving themselves with that book. Can you give me a little bit of context how this happened to you be a co-author of that book and how this experience impact on you further on? Because after that, I know that you separate from the brand Rich and Grow, Rich Dad Poor Dad, or however the brand is called, and you kind of moved into amazing self-building legacy, which is inspiring. So give me a little bit of story on that, please.
Sure, thank you. Well, it was back in December of 92, my oldest son got into credit card debt at college, and that's when I dedicated myself to financial literacy, financial education. Started working with school systems. My husband is a well-known intellectual property attorney. So fast forward a few years, I'm working with schools, and my husband calls me and he says, this guy's walked into his office in Bermuda shorts and flip-flops with this idea for a board game. Now I had just sold the company that I helped build, which was a talking children's book company, the books that had the sound strips down the side where you touch it and it makes noise and along with it when you read. And we grew that around the world because it was a time when kids had no electronics. So we said, how can we get parents to trust us? So we did licensing deals with little companies like Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel
Wow,
Comics. And we allowed
beautiful.
us to explode that company globally over the 4 years. And then we sold it and moved here to Arizona. And that's when our son got into credit card debt. So I took that experience and then I went to the very first beta test of the game Cashflow that Robert had come up with. It was still drawn out on a piece of paper. The different playing pieces were different caliber bullets. Great first impression. But I loved the concept of the game. And so I volunteered to help him just as a friend to commercialize the game and to get it done. And because I believed in the philosophy taught in the game. And in that process, helping him commercialize it, he told me he was going to charge $200. Well, that's pretty pricey for a board game in 1996. So I said, maybe you should write a brochure that explains the philosophy that will encourage people to buy it. And that's when he asked me to become his partner. We were equal partners for 10 years. And that brochure that we wrote together was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We never expected for it to take on a life of itself. It was actually written as a marketing tool.
It's
And
usually
then,
happening like this. When people do
yes,
not expect it, turn to be like, wow.
yeah. And then people wanted more. So he said, okay, we'll write a trilogy. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cashflow Quadrant, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. Done. Oh no. So in our 10 years as partners, and I was the CEO of the company as well, because of my experience, I knew how to build it. So during that 10 years, we created the world's largest personal finance brand. We wrote 15 books together, a myriad of other products. I launched the Rich Dad Advisor series. So we ended up in 110 countries and 51 languages. And so
Absolutely amazing.
what an incredible success. We were at the height of our success, but he wanted to go into franchising and I didn't agree with the model. So I made the decision to leave 10 years. We started our partnership in 97. I left in 2007.
Yeah, I
And
know that.
I teach people sometimes you have to close one door for other doors to open. And
It's
had I
brilliant.
not made the decision to leave Rich Dad, because I couldn't stay there in good conscience based on what he wanted to do. And so I made the decision to leave again at the height of our success. And that's when I got the call from President Bush. He asked me to be on the first President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy, which I had the honor of serving both President Bush and President Obama on that. And in fact, during that tenure, we passed the Credit Card Act of 2009, which prohibits credit card companies from soliciting kids on college campus, which is how my son got into credit card debt. So it comes full circle. Made me very proud to have been part of that. And so but I also, in March of '08, I got the phone call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. As I said, I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. And so what an incredible honor to have just built the world's largest personal finance brand and then asked to be stepping into the world's largest personal development brand, Napoleon Hill Foundation, and help reinvigorate teaching that. So I would not have gotten the call from President Bush had I still been at Rich Dad. I would certainly not have gotten a call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation had I still been a rich dad. So I share my experience with your audience because sometimes you have to close a door in your life for other doors of opportunity to open. So is there a door in your life you need to close so that new opportunities come your way?
That's absolutely brilliant what you share here. And you can imagine then, just out of that question, which you answered right now, how big honor for me it's to be able to speak with you today on all these topics. And I have only a couple of more questions for you. And one of them is, when you look now backwards, when you look at everything, what you did, was it easier to build success or to sustaining it?
Wow, I've never been asked that question before, Nick. I think both show different challenges, right? Fear of failure, when you're building success, you have to accomplish, get over that. And, at what point do you say, I'm successful? You're never quite sure because you're looking at the next horizon all the time. But when you've actually arrived, people tend to, when they get wealthy, they're afraid they're going to lose their money because that scarcity mindset is still lurking back in the background. And so when you've got it, you're afraid you're going to lose it. And so the sustaining wealth is an issue. And so I think they both show different obstacles and different mindset challenges. And a lot of people build a very successful company and they just ride it out. And so the sustaining part, they start losing the momentum in their money. And so again, everything is momentum of money. If you want to build generational wealth, you're constantly wanting to redeploy your money so that it continues to grow. And that is the sustaining wealth. So I see people struggling in both creating the success, many more people, because many people don't get to that level of success. Yeah. And then people get a little smarter, I think, in sustaining wealth if they have the right mentors to help them guide along the way.
What do you like personally more, building a business or maintaining the business?
My personal mission and my joy comes from helping other people create their legacies. You'll see right here over my shoulder, a legacy of building legacies. We've been financially free since I was 38. And certainly building Rich Dad was after that, as well as the other things that I've done. But my greatest joy today is when I have clients who've just sold for 10 million or 100 million, where I can see them creating that pattern of legacy of helping others as well. So that's my greatest joy, is helping other people reach that high level. I have a limited number of high level mentoring clients, and they're not my number one priority.
Beautiful. For the very last, I'm a father of a 9-year-old son. He is now in the period of time where he's interested of everything, where he is listening to my podcast episodes, going over my YouTube channel, something he understands, something he don't understand. Then he come back with the questions. Then he's learning coding in the Python. He wants to build apps. Then in the next day, he wants to be a YouTuber. So he's still trying to look for himself. I want to hear from you. If you had to teach a child of that age one belief about money, what would that be?
Well, great question, Nick. If you go to my website, I created a game called Thrive Time for Teens. Your 9-year-old is perfect to play that. And it teaches kids with play money how to build assets. It teaches them the difference between an active and a passive business, teaches them a little bit about real estate. But it also, the main principle there is it teaches young people that every decision they make either drives them towards success or not. And so it teaches responsibility, it teaches decision making, it teaches, civic duty. And it's won all kinds of awards. And it's something that's great for parents to play with their teens because parents don't really want to talk about their own personal money situation with their kids most of the time. But when you play in this safe environment with play money, it's a great time to have those conversations. It's also a wonderful time for mom and dad to learn too while they're having their child learn. So it's on my website, SharonLechter.com, Thrive Time for Teens. But again, it's always to talk to your kids about money. Let them experience money. Let them make mistakes and have to recover from them. Too many times we put our kids in bubbles. Give them a budget that they need to adhere to. And if they run out of money, stay strong. If they ran out of money, you're not going to be able to go to the movie with your friends this weekend because you spent your allowance this month. So, and again, allowance is a big issue. Do you give them money just because they're your child? Or, I always talk about there's a personal responsibility. You shouldn't give an allowance for brushing their teeth, making their bed. There's family responsibility, doing the dishes, supporting the family. That should not be paid. Doing, being part of the community, helping a neighbor, right? But excess things that they get a chore, they help you clean out the garage, or they, start helping other people mowing lawns. Those are all things where they can get paid. And kids get very creative about things that they can do. And those extra things are things where they should be paid for helping as an allowance.
That's beautiful. Sharon, is there anything I haven't asked you today, but you would like to leave our audience with and to share?
Well, the biggest thing for everybody watching and listening, you are the CEO of your life. If you want something different, you want something more, you want something better, start making different decisions and step outside your comfort zone. It's not as scary as you think. That first step is always the hardest. Try something new, educate yourself. It could be my money mastery program. It could be one of my books. Just take the time to invest in yourself. Because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, how can you expect others to invest in you?
That's very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this. And for very end, I see behind you, it's written, my biggest fans call me grandma. I can proudly say that today you earned one very big fan, and that's me. So from today, I'm gonna calling you as well grandma and be happy to reach out to you because everything what you shared today, it's mind-blowing. The biggest thing I never thought about that is about stepping out of comfort zone, but as well, you can step back and it's absolutely brilliant. With respect to your time, I want to thank you so much for being today here and for sharing all your wisdom and experience. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Absolutely. Delighted to be with you, Nick, and would welcome anybody to reach out to me, SharonLechter.com. Would love to hear from all of you.
I'll definitely put the link below. Thank you so much.